Hello and welcome to the Mentors Masterclass, a series of cool conversations with the world's most inspiring and successful entrepreneurs. My guest today is Kevin Knecht, who's a self-proclaimed dadpreneur, and I love that name. He's a father and a husband who's been working from home for the last 18 years alongside his wife, Melissa, so they could both be there to raise and be positive influences on their kids' lives. And it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the line here today, Kevin. Welcome to the call.
Awesome, Dan. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So before I jump into questions, I know you've got an interesting story. You know, obviously, if you've been working from home for 18 years, you've got some tales to tell of that journey. And so I wonder if you could tell us a little bit of that story. I've heard bits and pieces, but I'd love to hear it in your own words, and then maybe we'll jump into some questions after that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the opportunity. And, my background, the Reader's Digest version is I have been working from home full-time for 18 years. I met my wife, Melissa, on America Online, Dan, back in 1997. At the time, I was in radio advertising sales. I'd worked about almost 4 years in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and then down in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, my hometown area. And I just was not excited about the pay. I loved the outside sales and meeting people and all of that, but I just was not getting over $30,000 a year. And I thought, man, I'm never going to be able to raise a family, never going to be able to have time freedom. I'm going to be stuck in this town forever. Because, when you have, in that scenario, you have to know your hometown pretty much. And, you really can't travel too much. Otherwise, other salespeople come in and kind of take your clients. So I was looking for an opportunity, and I had actually found some home-based businesses even back in the 1990s, but I was aligned with people who were not making money. So it's kind of like the blind leading the blind. So, I joined a phone deal where I would save you on your long distance, and then I joined one of these soaps, lotions, and potions companies. But the problem was, although I wanted to make $10,000, $20,000 a month and be home full-time, there was nobody in my circle of influence that was even remotely close to that. In fact, the biggest cheese ahead of me was only about $500 a month. And, he wasn't qualified to help me quit my job, even though he told me I could. So I didn't realize how silly that was to follow the wrong people until I met my wife, Melissa, online. We actually met on America Online. And at the time, she was newly single. Our son Josh was 8, Olivia was 4 at the time, and now they're 26 and 22, so you can kind of do the math there. And our little guy Tanner, sitting behind me doing his schoolwork right now, is
hey Tanner.
He wasn't even born yet. He's 15 now. And when I met Melissa, here's what was cool: is that she was making $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, sometimes $8,000 in a month with her home business. She was home full time. She did not have a job. And I thought, wow, not only can I meet a woman I really like, but also find the mentor I'm looking for, who has a circle of influence. And her circle of influence were people that were making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month. So just like that, I realized that I was doing everything wrong. And by getting with her, I would probably do a lot better. So of course we did, starting to work together. And so that's how I started working from home full time. And from 1998 through 2011, we were up and down in some of these companies. There was not a lot of residual income in the companies that we were in. So we were as good as our last sale. They were, I guess, high ticket sales where we'd make anywhere from $500 to $1,000, sometimes several $1,000s in one pop. But then we didn't make a sale for a few weeks, and the money would kind of go back down. And so we were going up and down. We're always able to make enough money to stay at home. Most years we were close to 6 figures, close to $100,000, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. A couple of things I did wrong along the way. I never really got in touch with a financial guy or gal who taught me how to, when you have a business, you're supposed to structure as a business. You're supposed to put certain percentages aside for taxes, put certain percentage aside for savings and kids stuff and all of that. And I operated out of my checking account because that's what I learned. That's what you do when you have a job and you're broke all the time. And I ran up credit cards. That's what I did because that's what I was taught. And that's what my friends were doing. So in 2011, with this mindset of I was in two worlds at the time, Dan. I was in the entrepreneur world, but I was playing it like an employee. So in 2011, we had a terrible year in a company we were with, and our income dropped to about $50,000. And all of a sudden, I started, trying to max out the credit cards to pay for things, and we just ran out of money. And, that's when I started to get in touch with some financial guys and say, hey, look, Kevin, you really have done everything wrong. If you do this, and this, you can probably fix it all, but you're probably going to have to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in the meantime. And I thought, well, awesome. So we did that. December 15, 2011. We bottomed out in Phoenix. We went at 8 o'clock in the morning to go. It was a shameful day. I mean, there were about, 50 other people there. I thought we'd be the only ones. And like, oh, I see we're part of this new club over here, the bankrupt people in Phoenix. And I couldn't believe how many people were there. And so I didn't feel as bad after that. But at that time, I started questioning everything. We'd worked from home and ended up with nothing. So should we now go get jobs? What should we do? And so the next couple of months, I had some affiliate things that were just kind of making ends meet, but I was supposed to go find a job. But I couldn't find anything that paid more than a couple of $1,000s a month. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I can't even get a job that's going to pay what I want to make. So fortunately, I found a company in March of 2012. I'd been following them for a couple of months and realized, wow, here's a group of people who are making the $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month, and I have instant access to them. I know a couple of them. So I can get in conversation with them, and basically, here's the thing, Dan, I could do what they were doing. That was the key. So if you're, taking notes right now, when you're looking for a way to work from home, if you're looking to do that, you want to find people who are doing something successfully and ask yourself the question, can I do what that person's doing? And if the answer is yes, then great, get started. And all you have to be able to do is to follow his or her steps. And that's what I did. The company I joined had 8 core principles and said, do this, and this on a daily basis. Do it for 90 days, and you'll get to $10,000 or more per month. And the only guarantee was that the owner of the company would mentor with you personally if you followed the steps and proved that you followed the steps and didn't get the results. So I was up for the challenge. I thought, all right, I'm going to do this. I used the rent money to get started, which I probably shouldn't have done. Don't necessarily recommend that if you're watching this and have your rent money sitting in the bank. That's not for everybody. It was for me. So we did that. We turned it around. We made $4,000 in our first 30 days. So I'm glad I did that. And over the period of time, we did get up to $10,000 per month within 90 days as advertised. And we haven't been below that since. And, we developed a concept, Dan, called residual income, which is monthly income that comes in. So at the start of the month, you don't start at zero. You actually start with a base of customers, and we've been building that over a long period of time. And actually, the other end of the spectrum is that we actually did take time to set ourselves up, structure ourselves as an LLC operating as an S corp. We now pay our taxes on a quarterly basis the way businesses do. We now pay ourselves a salary through payroll. All those things that you're supposed to do, that the IRS is happy to offer you all of these tax breaks if you follow the rules and you play the game. There's a saying I learned years ago that if you know the rules of the game before you start playing it, it's a fun game to play. So I guess that's the long version of the short story. I apologize for taking a little bit longer than I intended.
No, that's all right. I love that you get into some of the detail of where you've been, because it's always fascinating to learn where people have come from. You shared that you had fairly good success in the home business industry, and then it was a bad year and kind of took you out of the game a little bit and had you questioning the path. And it's awesome to see where you guys are now. I've been following you guys online. Actually, you and I haven't personally met, but I actually did get a picture with Tanner at one of the events.
That's right.
Down in Miami. So I don't know if you'll remember that, but at the baseball stadium, it was a good night. So one of the first questions I always like to ask, and you touched on this in your intro, was some of your mentors. You mentioned Melissa was a mentor of yours to get going. I always want to find out what some of your biggest mentors have been and the roles they've played in the journey you've taken through life.
Yeah, that's a great question. My biggest mentor, I guess the first mentor, I talked about being in that company where I never made more than $500 a month. But I did have a mentor there. His name is Tom, who introduced me to Tony Robbins. I'd never heard of Tony Robbins. And he said, Kevin, go buy this Personal Power 2 series. I think it's up if I look at my screen up there. Yeah, it's right up there. I always keep it right there to remind myself. That's the CD series I bought in 1996. That's a rhino up there, by the way, with sunglasses on. Because there's another great book called Rhinoceros Success, Scott Alexander, another one of my favorite mentors.
I'm going to look that one up.
Yeah, Scott Alexander, Rhinoceros Success. He's on Facebook. He's very chatty on Facebook. You can get onto a chat with him. But Tony Robbins, he is Mr. Motivation. In 1996, when I got introduced to Tony Robbins, I went through that CD series, and I actually filled out the booklet. And, for the first time, I started to design my life. What kind of house do I want to live in? Where do I want to live? Who's my ideal partner? What do I want to do with my life? And those are things I just never learned in high school, never learned in college, never learned at the first MLM meetings I went to. So Tony Robbins has been a standard for me to live up to. If I always feel like I can do better after I listen to Tony Robbins, even to this day. So he's a big one for me. And I mentioned Scott Alexander. He's got a book called Rhinoceros Success, which I read early on as well. And in that book, he talks about two types of people. There are the cows and the rhinos. The rhinos are like you and me, Dan. We charge through the jungle. We see obstacles and we knock them over as fast as we can, and we just keep charging. That's the theme, keep charging. Whereas a cow is kind of like in the pasture. Cows tend to be very slow and methodical, and they walk around in their own stuff because they just go wherever. You know what I mean? So cows will always stay in the group. They will always stay whereas rhinos make a run for freedom. I mean, you never see a cow making a run for the fence and like trying to break through. They just don't do that. But if you put a bunch of rhinos in that same pasture, the rhinos would make a run for the fence and boom, break through. And that's really the theme of his books. He wrote that book back in 1980. And my kids have all read the book. Tanner read Rhinoceros Success when he was younger. He understands. In fact, our daughter Olivia got in trouble in school because she read the Rhinoceros book, and she got in trouble because she called a girl a cow in school, and the teacher thought she meant something else, and she kept telling the teacher, no, she's just dumb. That's what Olivia just thought. She was dumb because she's a cow. Like rhinos are smart, cows are dumb. But the teacher kind of thought she meant something else by calling her a cow. So it was funny. All right, awesome.
I'm surprised I haven't heard of that title. I'm going to have to look that book up.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
Sounds like a great book. So you've had a number of mentors over the years, obviously. That's awesome. I know Tony Robbins is a mentor of mine. I haven't yet had the good fortune of attending any of his live events. I did see an evening presentation. He came to Calgary here once, just a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, and I was able to attend. But I'd love to go to one of his bigger weekend events for sure. It's on my list of things to do. I've got a couple of his books on my bookshelf here right in front of me that I can see right now too. And yeah, he's been a huge influence and just a phenomenal force in the universe right now. So my next question for you, this is a bit of a twist, is what have you learned about success in your path that's different from what you might have believed earlier?
I apologize if you hear my
That's
dog
all right.
barking. The UPS guy shows up here and she's the protector. I didn't hear your question actually because all I can hear is a dog barking.
Sorry, yeah. So my question, Kevin, was what is it that you've discovered about success in your journey that's different than what you might have thought previously before you achieved a level of success? What do you have a different perspective about now that you've had a level of success?
What I've learned over these years is that there are no shortcuts. And to go from $10,000 a year to $10,000 a month takes about 10 times as long as you think it's going to take. That's okay. I think too many people, I've seen this over so many years. We've worked with thousands of people over the years, personally, as well as just through our teams. Most people give up way too soon. And something I wrote a blog about a while back, and I like to say this a lot, is that most people are actually closer than they think to having success. Most people are, the only thing holding them back is that maybe they get a dumb uncle or spouse or coworker that kills their dreams when they are really right on the cusp of having something big. I remember being in my 20s working at the Harrisburg radio station, I got so excited when I learned about this phone company. I naturally went back to work the next day, and every single person in the office I wanted to talk to about, nobody said, right on, Kevin, that is awesome. You go for your goal. Everybody was like, are you nuts? They scammed you. Like, all of my coworkers, my boss, I know why he did it. My boss wanted to support me, but he also knew that I was making sales for him. So I understand that too. So what I've learned about success is that, especially now, we all have access, everybody watching here, we all have access to the internet. We have smartphones. We have access to information that was not even available 10 or 15 years ago. Even when I got started in this industry, it's radically changed 18 years ago versus now. So anybody now can make a run for success and do it in the shortest period of time ever if you'll have that belief system in place first. And the second thing you've got to have is a support system around you. And it does start inside your home. You've got to have people on board with you, or at least earn the respect of those around you. If they don't necessarily agree, at least be able to shut your office door and be able to get to work and not have them nag you that you have a dream to fight for. And I think that's a bigger issue. A lot of people ask me over the years, how are you and Melissa able to stay together for so long and work from home together? Isn't that kind of weird? Like, you guys are always together. But that was something I actually wrote down when I was talking about, going through the Tony Robbins exercise. I thought, well, why would I want to have a spouse? Some spouses, and this is great if this is you, husband goes to work, wife goes to work, they go in two separate directions. Their three kids go to three different schools, and then they see each other maybe on the weekends and maybe on a 2-week vacation in the summer. If they're happy doing that, awesome. But I didn't want that. I wanted to have a spouse where I could be myself. I wanted to have a spouse where we could collaborate together and build a business together and have that support system in place, because I saw how it operated without. And I saw that in some of my early mentors, where they were going, I could tell they were on the way to a divorce. And I thought, man, it's not going to last because he has a dream and she doesn't. So you've got to have that. You've got to have that in place. So success starts in your home. It starts with your sacred space. You've got to feel 100% on board with where you're going. You can't be 80%. You can't say, well, I've got to make some money or else my spouse is going to make me quit. You have to take that ownership. And I revisited that in 2011. When we went bankrupt, Melissa really was unsure, should we continue this? And I was too. But I thought it was so painful to think about going to work for the rest of my life. I was 40, what year was that? 2011. I was 41. I thought, I cannot do 25 years at work knowing that I could have worked for the next 5 years to fully be able to retire on a residual income. There's just no way I could do it. And I couldn't get that out of my head. And because I couldn't get that out of my head, I decided to take massive action toward the goal, like the rhino, running toward the goal. And that's where you've got to be if you're going to be successful in any endeavor. And look at, if you read biographies, like I read the Tiger Woods biography of how successful, like he started at such a young age and how the tens of thousands of hours, and Michael Jordan, the tens of thousands of hours. And, you and I look good on camera here right now, Dan. People think, oh, they just got lucky.
It's the hair, Kevin.
Yeah, of course. They don't see the hours and the hours, the struggle. They don't see all of the failed attempts, the websites we made, it didn't convert, or, we sent out an email and got 10 hate letters back, I've had everything go wrong in my business over the years. I've had drama and trauma with kids and wives and ex-husbands and things to take you off your path. The little one was just the dog barking for a second, which it interrupts a thought pattern, So all of these things happen, but yet we move forward. So success is a long-term commitment to your ideal lifestyle. It's not a 90-day thing, and if it doesn't work, you quit. If you do it for 90 days and you're no better off, you really are. You just have probably figured out some ways that don't work, and you've had to learn more about yourself on the journey as well.
Yeah, a little bit of Thomas Edison's principle that he didn't have 10,000 failures. He had 10,000 experiments, or found 10,000 ways that it didn't work until he discovered the one that did.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you touched on that so many people are closer than they realize to achieving their success. Greg Reed talks about it in his book 3 Feet from Gold, which it comes from Napoleon Hill's book Think and Grow Rich. All great principles, and I think you hit the nail on the head with the commitment to make it happen. Seeing your family working from home, working together, Tanner in the background there doing his schoolwork, that's one of the visions my wife and I had as well. She started she left her job when we started having children. So she's been home for about 10 years now, a little over 10 years. And my motivation was that I was missing out. I would come home from work. I would get up at 5:30 and be at work by 7 a.m. And I had done that for 15 years. And I would come home at 5 o'clock or 5:30 or 6, whenever I managed to get home, and see my kids for an hour or so until we put them to bed, and hear about all the milestones I had missed out on while I was at work. And I didn't want to be that dad. You know, I wanted to be there for my kids. So fortunately, I've been home for just over 7 years now. And my kids don't know a day where I've gone to work. There's lots of days where I've got meetings or I'm at events or those kind of things. But more often than not, I'm there to drop them off in the morning, and I'm there to pick them up in the afternoon or when they get home. I get to go on field trips, and yeah, I can't see myself going back to working a job. It's not the world I want to raise my kids in. And it's not for everybody. You know, like you said, people don't see all the hours of effort and energy and challenges that we face. I like the saying that entrepreneurs are people who will quit a 40-hour job so they can come and work 60 hours for themselves, you know, just so they're working for their own dreams though. And that's the big piece for me.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that you talk about being the primary influence in your kid's upbringing. I heard that about 10 years ago from a guy named John, and that just hit me right between the eyes. Like, so many dads miss out on all the great moments. And isn't it awesome when you can be home for that, Dan? I mean, that's just the greatest thing. I mean, Tanner doesn't know anything else except for me being at home. Right. And, you know, I think, and I've heard this many times over the years too, is that, you know, there's a big difference between parents telling their kids you can be anything you want to be and actually doing that themselves. You know, parents who demonstrate that in front of their kids by being anything you want to be are teaching at a much higher level than by just sitting on the couch having another bag of Fritos and saying, hey, you can go out there, I'll drop you off, but, you know. And, yeah, I saw on Facebook the other day, I don't remember the woman's name. It was really profound. It really hit me. It was like, wow, this is awesome. Here is a mom who is an entrepreneur. She works from home. She has 5 kids. Her husband, I think, is a chiropractor. And she asked the question, is it selfish of me to make time each day to work out for myself? Or should I spend an extra hour focusing on my kids? And she came to the conclusion that it's better to work out for herself, so that way she has more energy and more enthusiasm for the rest of the day with her kids. And not only that, here's the thing that really made me proud of the response, was that she said, hey, now I'm also demonstrating how important it is to my kids. So when they grow up, they'll remember mom as being somebody who worked out every day. And I thought about that, and I thought, wow, you know, I don't ever remember my parents committing to a workout schedule. And as a result, I grew up not being committed to a workout schedule. And I had gym class and all of that. But even in my 4.5 years of college, not one time did I ever enter the gym there, because it never seemed important to me. I thought, man, you know, they had this nice gym, but I always thought, oh, just the football players go there, the baseball players, all the jocks go there. You know, I had this Revenge of the Nerds thing in my head because I was the nerd and the jocks were the jocks, you know. But what parents do says a lot about how the kids watch. They're no dopes. They've got the recorder going at all times of the day. They're watching what you do, not what you say.
And they do what you do, not what you say, too.
Exactly. Exactly. So parents, write that down. You know, if you're wondering why your kids aren't being as successful as you want them to be, start with yourself. And that's the hardest thing to do. Boy, is that hard to do. It's hard to be accountable. And now, geez, you put a Facebook post out there now. I even have to. I can't be as colorful with my humor as much as I used to. I have a grown daughter and a grown son now, so they're like, "Wait a minute, Dad, which guy are you?" You know. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I grew up in a household, and times are different now for sure than when we were kids. My dad was a custom home builder. He was a carpenter, and Mom stayed home and looked after the house and the garden and all those duties that go with it. And, you know, he was home every day by 5 o'clock though for supper and spent the evenings with us. A lot of the time we grew up on an acreage, so there was a lot of work to do. we weren't out playing all the time, but we did. He built a ball diamond on our front lawn, and we played a lot of ball.
Nice.
And
that's cool.
And so, it is different times. I see a lot of people today, both husband and wife are working because they have to. Just times have changed. Everybody's got higher needs and higher wants, and so that takes higher incomes. And so the kids are being raised by before and after school programs or daycares. And yeah, I totally think it's I like the shift anyway that I'm seeing into homeschooling and those kinds of ideas, and that's something we're exploring for our kids as well. And so I see families like yours and the Unstoppable family, and they're traveling the world, and it's a real inspiration. We've got our kids in a great program right now. We found a great little private school just 5 minutes from home, so we're happy with where they're at right now. But the traveling and homeschool option is definitely on the radar, something we're working towards.
Yeah, there's a lot more freedom available now than even a few years ago. And the thing I'll just say about homeschooling is that homeschooling, a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to have to be doing all the research and figuring out the curriculum and all of that. Something that Tanner does is he actually has a virtual school online. It's public school online. It's the same as if he went to the high school 10 minutes away. It's just that everything's online, and he doesn't even have textbooks anymore in high school anyway. So he does everything online, just like we do our business online, Dan. Yep. And he's got teachers. The teachers have access to us if they need to contact us and say, hey, Tanner's not doing so well over here. Maybe we ought to have a chat. So, there's that back and forth communication. He's got a teacher for each of his 6 classes. He has live lessons, so he has live webinars. And the nice part about that, of course, is that if we do travel, he can just, kind of pick and choose when he does his schoolwork from wherever. And our home base is here in Florida, where we happen to live right now. So we actually, there was one year where we actually moved in the middle of the school year, and it was just too much of a hassle to move to school during the school year. So we just we kind of told a fib. We told Phoenix that we were still living there, even though we had moved to Atlanta. So we waited till the end of the semester so he could just have the continuity with his program, and then flipped him over at the end of the school year. So it really doesn't matter because, as far as the social aspect, they have what do you call it? Field trips and things like that. And Tanner's got his group of friends online and some around here in the neighborhood. So it's the same thing. It's just, and the greatest benefit for him is that now he can sleep till about 9:30 in the morning. Whereas, how silly were we? We got up at 6 in the morning for high school when we were younger. So yeah, definitely different times. That's fantastic that, technology has afforded those options now. I mean, those options weren't available to me when I was in school. I know I took a drafting course by correspondence, but they mail you the big books and then you do your work and mail it back to them. Whereas today, everything's instant. Technology is there and available wherever you happen to be, which is one of the things I love about working from home and building an online business. Is it gives me that flexibility. If we're traveling, I can take my laptop and find a Wi-Fi connection and plug right back in. Exactly.
So I know we're getting close here to our time. I want to be respectful of your time. One of the things that I always like to end my interview with, I actually carry around in my back pocket one of my favorite quotes. It's from Zig Ziglar. And it says, you can have everything you want. This thing's getting really tattered. I got to get a new one made. It's laminated, but it's falling apart. But it says you can have everything you want in life if you just help other people get what they want. So my question to you, Kevin, is how can I help you? How can people get a hold of you and learn more about what you're doing? You and Melissa are up to some great things. How can people get in touch with you? What's the best place?
I guess on our blog, if you go to kevinandmelissa.com is our blog, which has links to our Facebook. My last name is Knecht, which everybody knows, of course, the first time they try to pronounce it. And we're just on Facebook at kevinknecht.com and melissaknecht.com. And we have a lot of information on there about how to become a mompreneur, how to become a dadpreneur, how to become a full-time family. For 18 years, we've been all together. We started in Pennsylvania. We moved to Arizona for 8 years. We tried on Atlanta, Georgia for a year. We're down here in Florida now for 2 years. Now we're kind of getting an itch to move again. So, hey, we just
Where's next?
Next, we might be going back to Phoenix. We love Phoenix. We have a lot of friends there, and spiritual community we love. So it's always felt like home when we lived there. We've actually lived there twice, and we might go back a third time. So I guess that's kind of a clue. But the freedom to move. And I always say to people, hey, you ought to go take that chance. If you have a dream to move somewhere and live where you love, try it on. I mean, the worst case scenario is you try it on for a year or two. If it doesn't work out, go back to where you are. But life is too short to wonder what if. At the end of the day, you've just got to say, eventually we'll run out of time. The what ifs, you've got to take that chance, take that opportunity. Working with Dan or working with myself, you have that freedom available to you. And I love watching your family, Dan, because your family's like a younger version of mine. You're home with the kid. Your kids are younger. Mine are 26, 22, and 15. But 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was like a sweet spot. I mean, like having little kids in the house is just my favorite thing ever. And so if I can help more moms and dads be together from home and be together with their kids and have that really, I think that does society well when families can be together rather than that scenario I said earlier about 5 family members going in 5 directions in the morning. That was me growing up in the 80s. That was me in high school, my brother in middle school, my sister in elementary school, and mom and dad each had a job. I thought, this is nuts. That's not really, I don't think that's what most people want to do. But you know what? My mom and dad did a great job of having great jobs and, giving us all nice college careers if we wanted it. And, and staying together, finding a way to stay together and sorting their differences. And now they have a great retirement. So they're demonstrating that. So my mom and dad did a great job of saving and showing how you can be consistent and persistent because they both had the same jobs for years, which never happens anymore. So
no, it's a rare thing these days. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I think we have an obligation here, Dan, is to be, it's our job right now to be as successful as we can be so others will be inspired to do the same. If we're happy every day, if we're putting out good content on our platforms so other people can say, wait, there's a better way. Maybe I ought to be home with my kids. That's what I'm all about here. And there are so many ways to generate an income online today. I mean, there's no shortage of ideas. You just have to get started with one. So I would suggest you find people who are having the results you're looking to have and collaborate with them and start living your dreams rather than just writing them in a diary somewhere.
Well said. Awesome. Well, like I said, I want to respect your time. I appreciate you coming on the call here with us today, Kevin, and I look forward to connecting with you again, no pun intended, next chance I get, and maybe get another picture with Tanner and the rest of the family this time, not just Tanner. So that's all we have for you today. Be sure to go to kevinandmelissa.com and visit their website, see what they're up to, learn more about the path they've been on over the years and the great things they're doing today and how you too could be working from home like they are. So that's all we have for today. Stay tuned for another episode of the Mentors Masterclass. Bye for now. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Dan.